Hi, I'm Pilky at the Seoul Digital University. Today, I'd like to talk about the digital transformation, and the cause of this session is understanding citizen-centric digital transformation. So I'll talk about digital transformation, especially in the post-COVID-19. What I'd like to talk about today is just understanding digital transformation, especially in the post-pandemic society. As you know, the COVID-19 pandemic has changed the world and is expected to last for a long time. In the process of dealing with the pandemic, digital transformation became a necessity. In the post-pandemic society, digital transformation will occur quickly and pervasively in every corner of our lives. Prospect for change in the key areas of society will be summarized. Summing up, digital transformation will accelerate, widen, and deepen. The objectives of this course is to understand how to respond to changes and how to prepare for the post-COVID-19 era, and how to deal with the emerging issues caused by the COVID-19. And also, we'd like to understand the implications and effects of COVID-19 on digital transformation. And also, we'd like to understand digital transformation strategy in post-COVID-19 era. The structure of this session is, first of all, I'll talk about issues and implications in the post-pandemic era, and also talk about digital transformation. Afterwards, I'll just present and explain a little bit about policy framework and strategy of digital transformation, aka DX, in the post-pandemic era. And in the first section, I'll summarize the digital transformation in terms of acceleration, widening, and deepening. And also, I'd like to introduce some key areas in terms of digital transformation, especially in the post-COVID era, and I'd like to present a summary. The first issue is what kind of issues and implications we have in the post-pandemic era. Simply put, how will the COVID-19 pandemic change our world? As you know, the pandemic crisis hit the world economy. The number of people living in poverty increased sharply, while income and wealth inequality trended towards new highs. And with the vaccination in sight and another virus-killing pill is appears, we are going to see the end of this pandemic. Although the world will eventually recover from this pandemic, and it is expected to last for several years or longer, and many experts are convinced that things around us will never be the same. In other words, we cannot probably go back to the world as we know in the past. In the process of recovery, new technologies are playing a critical role in changes which will accelerate, widen, and deepen digital transformation in the post-pandemic era, as I mentioned earlier. I'll try to focus on the impact of pandemic in key areas like economy, education, healthcare, and government. As you experienced, or you are still experiencing, there was a shock to a global supply chain. So with an abrupt high unemployment all over the world and abruption in global supply chain will give us pain to any country, to any sector, and to any individual, to any household. Much of economic activities should go online and virtual, as we just communicate right now. You are communicating with me online, which means this pandemic will spur the digital industries and digital communication, simply put, digital transformation. Let's move to education issue. Because of COVID-19, a lot of schools should close and many students could not go to school. So what should we do? So what we try to do is using virtual learning and virtual studying as we are doing right now. So the shift of learning into the home has blurred the lines between learning and leisure. So as a parent, when we look at our kids, some kids seems to study and some kids seems to play online game. So there is a blurring lines between learning and leisure. Over the pandemic, work is largely remote and digital with the sharply increasing use of digital collaboration tools. Let's move on to healthcare. I guess you have experienced a serious problem in healthcare issues. During the pandemic, public health system has become a focus of attention all over the world. Even with vaccines in sight and virus killing pill seems to be appearing right now, we are very concerned about the health system of our society. And we need self-help care in our society, in our home. But the search for telemedicine options is one of them. And those options will increase. Actually, it has increased. Now, let's talk about government. What should we do? Government should tackle COVID pandemic in one hand and should keep the economy going on the other hand. Government should achieve people's safety and people's life, economy, education, etc. This slide is summary of all the changes and issues caused by the 19. I'll just go over this one. And let's move on to digital transformation. COVID-19 forced us, in some sense, to make use of digital potential. And I wouldn't like to go into detail about this digital transformation. Simply put, we are forced to use more digital potential, more digital technology. This can be summarized as accelerating, widening, and deepening of digital transformation. What is digital transformation? Let's look at the definition of digital transformation by OECD. Let me read this definition. Digitalization is the conversion of analog data and processes into a machine-readable format. Digitalization is the use of digital technologies and data as well as interconnection that result in new or changes to existing activities. Digital transformation refers to the economic and societal effects of digitalization and digitization. But today, an ecosystem of independent digital technologies underpins digital transformation and will evolve to drive future economic and societal changes. That's the definition of digital transformation by OECD. And another definition of digital transformation is from perspective of technology determinism. So originally, the DX, digital transformation, is defined as a business activity that enhances a company's competitiveness or pursues even new growth while responding to environmental changes triggered by digital technology such as mobile, cloud computing, big data, AI, aka artificial intelligence, and IoT, Internet of Things. In order to solve social problems by utilizing new technology, the concept of digital government was derived. And it also from the process of government adapting to digital innovation. Then I just mentioned what has changed because of COVID-19 pandemic. Now let's move to what should we do? How should we do? It was summarized in policy framework and strategy of digital transformation in the post-pandemic era. It was suggested by OECD. It's called Policy Framework for Digital Transformation. It divided a society issue in terms of growth and well-being into 7 or 8 areas like access issue, use issue, innovation issue, jobs, society, trust, market openness. It was summarized in this policy framework for digital transformation. The title of this report was OECD Going Digital Integrated Policy Framework. What kind of actions should we take? OECD 9 actions for digital transformation. I'll just briefly explain this one. Action 1. First of all, make the digital economy visible in economic statistics. Why should we need statistics? Without statistics, it's not easy to make a decision. So we must make digital economy visible in economic statistics. Action 2. We should understand the economic impact of digital transformation. Action 3. Encourage measurement of the digital transformation's impacts on social goals and people's well-being. Why we need encourage measurement? Without measurement, we cannot manage the economy. So without management, we cannot encourage people to take actions. So that's why we must encourage measurement. Action 4. Design new and interdisciplinary approaches to data collection. Without collection, we cannot make a correct decision based on data. We cannot analyze the economy and society based on data. That's why we need a systematic data collection system. Action 5. Monitor technology underpinning the digital transformation, notably IoT, artificial intelligence, and blockchain. Action 6, improve the measurement of data and data flows. I mentioned earlier. Action 7, define and measure skills needs for the digital transformation. In the developing countries, what the serious problem we face is the lack of capability or competence of the people. So we must define and measure skills needed for digital transformation, and we must develop that competence and skills. Action 8, measure trust in online environment. Yeah, trust is always important. The cyber security and privacy, all the real issues are related to trust. Action 9, establish an impact assessment framework for digital government. Without assessment, without measurement, we cannot make an accurate decision and we cannot make a right action. That was the OECD 9 actions for digital transformation. Now, we can summarize the digital transformation in terms of acceleration, widening, and deepening. How can we expect those acceleration and widening and deepening? Businesses should adjust to changes prompted by COVID crisis. What we need is resilience in terms of business, in terms of national stability. So digital resilience refers to an organization's ability to rapidly adapt to business disruptions by leveraging digital capabilities to not only restore business operations, but also capitalize on the changed conditions. We should act proactively. We should not be passive. Well, sometimes we are just scared of this COVID-19. We just hesitate to do something. But for the future, in order to move forward, we should take proactive actions, aggressive actions. In order to do that, we need competence and ability. The ability to respond to business disruptions and accelerate the restoration of an operation is increasingly related to technology capabilities. Now, COVID-19 pandemic revealed vulnerabilities in the long run and exposed vulnerability to supply chains. So we must reconsider the traditional way of doing business, like just in time and just in cases. What we need is resilience. For resilience, we need digital transformation. The vulnerability and resilience are flip sides of the same coin. In addition, many people worldwide, those who are not income poor, are highly vulnerable to economic shocks. When some exogenous shock came to our society, the most vulnerable people are low income, low educated people. So we should take good care of the people who are very vulnerable. So social protection scheme can act as automatic stabilizers, smooth household consumption, and minimize the impact of a shock while reducing income and consumption inequality. That was suggested by UN Global Economic Situation and Prospect in 1921. Now let's take a look at the specific sectors like economy and education. What about the economy? We call the serious change from new technology the fourth industrial revolution. This is digitally enabled productivity gains accelerate the fourth industrial revolution. This is summarized as a fourth industrial revolution. The great acceleration in the use of technology, digitization, and new forms of working is going to be sustained. The COVID-19 has sped up transition in areas as artificial intelligence and digitization by several years, even faster in Asia. Because this pandemic accelerated this trend. Summing up, the COVID-19 crisis has created an imperative for companies to reconfigure their operations and opportunity to transform them. And simply put, it has accelerated. Another impact of this pandemic was the acceleration of digitalization and sophistication in the area of, in the scope of global trade. What is the sophistication? Sophistication means the increased use, production, and export of services in other countries. So in this global trade area, digitalization and sophistication are two key changes after post-pandemic crisis. The transformation or encapsulation of existing process or systems into our one or more discrete services will accelerate. This is called so-called sophistication. Sophistication is made possible only by digitalization. Another issue is what kind of divide will happen before and after post-pandemic, the pandemic. In the post-pandemic area, the global digital divide will accelerate. It will get serious. It will exacerbate. So in many developing countries, it is vital that national innovation systems are strengthened in order to invigorate firms' business capabilities or individual citizens' capabilities to observe and utilize knowledge and adjust to changing circumstances. The global digital divide will probably, I guess, place many developing countries, your country or my country, especially low-income countries that generally lack digital infrastructure at a competitive disadvantage in the new trade environment. So we got to be really careful. So we got to just to make an utmost effort to establish a digital infrastructure and nurture digital capabilities. What about in education? As I mentioned, and as you probably experienced the disruption in education, it makes a serious problem to our society and the next generations. Especially, it's a serious for children and youth affected by a lack of resources or enabling environments to access learning. And also, it is true for the teaching profession. If teachers cannot make use of digital divide and digital content, they cannot teach their kids. So it's urgent for teachers to nurture their own capability for digital environment. Digital transformation in education requires element from infrastructure competitors. I mentioned it just now. So we need infrastructure and we need devices we need accessibility, we need competencies. So digital transformation in education involves access infrastructures, devices, learning tools, LMS, so-called learning management system, and digital competence of teachers and students as well. So there are challenges in online learning. Most teachers and students should have digital competence to take advantage of online learning. As I communicate with you right now, I guess you have capabilities to make use of these digital devices and digital services, and also you have an access to infrastructure and you have digital devices. That's why you can take this course right now. So we need lots of elements from infrastructures to competencies. So in the future, going forward, teachers' readiness for equitable and inclusive learning is critical. It's really important. So digital solutions need relevant content, instructional models, effective teaching practices, and supportive learning environment. So teacher development and professionalization are key to ensure they are sufficiently qualified and remunerated. Government could also strengthen systems of support for teachers, facilitators, and parents and caregivers in the successful and safe use of technology for learning. So I gotta hurry up now. Yeah, I will not just go into detail healthcare system because everybody already has experienced this importance of this healthcare system. So in the course of dealing with this COVID pandemic, we already acknowledged the importance of the healthcare system. So we must upgrade the public health infrastructures, and we must modernize the healthcare systems. And in that process, we must use telemedicines and virtual health and lots of other digital services and technologies. And what kind of priorities we should keep in mind? So we must put the workforce center stage, and we take a step, focus on inequalities and population health. We must continuously reform for our social care system. Also, we have to embed and accelerate digital transformation in the wake of recent progress. And also, we must reshape the relationship between communities and public services. Only the healthcare system, the doctors or nurses, they cannot deal with all the social problems and disease problems. So whole the communities, government and citizen and all hospitals, doctors, nurses, they must cooperate to deal with serious pandemic. So we can summarize the changes as in this table. Importantly, the digital legacy of COVID-19 needs to be durable. It must be built on public consent. Yeah, it's very important. There is controversy around the vaccination mandate, and some people just take the vaccine as natural, and some people just don't like vaccination. So there should be some public consent. And also, the support for healthcare system should be readjusted, and lots of service users should be reconsidered, changing in response to a changing environment. Also, we have to have a proportionate framework of safeguards for the future crisis. So what should we do? As a government, everybody knows the changes were coming up in many sectors of our society. But we mentioned in economy and education, healthcare, and now we must to change our government. So how can we summarize the change and trend and issues in government innovation? It was suggested by OECD. The trend one is innovative response. The trend two, seamless government, the whole of government approaches. And trend three, focusing on the overlooked. By overlooked, I mean the vulnerable people, the overlooked people, the vulnerable people, vulnerable area. The trend 4, there should be a debate on public provide versus a big brother. Yeah, the government can do something very effectively, but there is an issue of a big brother. Yeah, it kind of social value involved in that process. So there should be some consensus on how we can provide the lots of services. Is it a monopolistic position by government? Is effective or not? Trend 5 is upskilling. Yeah, it should upskill ourselves. Even government should upskill itself. And another issue is government should prepare to deal with the legacy of the COVID-19 pandemic. This pandemic just left a lot of problem to our society. So even the pandemic just goes away, we'll have lots of serious social and economic problems. So the government should be prepared to deal with all these left out problems. Also, the government should promote economic activities in the long run. They must formulate a good strategy. But in that process, a lot of government just focus on growth and productivity. But in that process, some people or some sectors, some organization can be neglected. So we must take care of those neglected areas. In other words, we must build an inclusive digital future. These trends are encouraging in terms of digitalization, but digital transformation may cause exclusive growth, so the government should pay more attention to inclusive society and inclusive future. In such a short time, I just hurry up to summarize all the items, and at this time I'll try to summarize again. Going digital is essential in the post-COVID-19 pandemic. Then what is digital transformation? Digital transformation is the use of digital technology to solve today's problems. And what kind of trends we'll see in the post-COVID-19 era? Simply put, digital transformation will accelerate, widen, and deepen in the post-COVID-19 era. There is an urgent need for digital transformation in economy, education, government, and healthcare system in major areas. And all the systems, all the organizations, all the citizens should change for the future. The lessons learned from this consideration is we must prepare for the new normal after COVID pandemic. And we can think of the pandemic as a catalyst for digital transformation. Simply put, we can summarize this trend as digital transformation will accelerate, widen, and deepen because the COVID pandemic has proven the importance and necessity of digital technologies. And digital transformation will fundamentally transform the world as we know today. We must finally, slowly hurry up. Thank you for your time and effort.